Hey wonderful people, it's Aura Pampa again, and today I wanted to tell you about a book I'm listening to called The Millionaire FASTLANE. Alright, let's get to it. So The Millionaire FASTLANE is about thinking, okay, what are the things you can leverage to help yourself gain wealth in your lifetime, as opposed to, and not necessarily gaining wealth at the end of a long working career, but actually earlier than that. What are the tools you have to leverage that can help you with gaining that wealth? The book's author is MJ DeMarco. I hadn't actually heard much about him until somebody I was watching on YouTube recommended this book, and I thought, let me check out the book. And it has been insightful. The audiobook is about 12 hours long. On Audible, it's split into two halves. And at the end of part one, I actually thought the book was over, and I was like, I just got so much value from this, only to realize, no, there's part two. So, okay, I see you, DeMarco, okay. So, what does the book talk about? The book basically talks about, first of all, 3 different kinds of people in this world. There are those who take the sidewalk, there are those who take the slow lane, and there are those who take the fast lane. The sidewalk people are people who have let themselves fall prey to limiting beliefs, such that they never believe they can make wealth. They don't believe they have the power to change things. They're just there to complain, and even when they do earn wealth, they squander it very quickly. And it's people in this category who tend to overspend. They tend to spend more than they earn, so have a lot of debt, and they're constantly caged into just a lifestyle that's not great, Then you have the slow lane. Now, the slow lane people are people who do believe they can amass wealth, but they believe they can only do so slowly. Slowly might mean, oh, I'll be rich when I'm 60, by the time I retire, or I'll be wealthy then, or I'm pinching and saving, and eventually at that age, after a long career, I'll be financially free. However, here's the issue. The older you get, the harder it is to actually enjoy some of the things you'd want to enjoy that would come from financial freedom. Things like just being able to travel the world, being able to take on new adventures, being able to try new things. You're a bit limited, or you're a lot more limited by the time you're a bit older. It's just a fact of life. You don't have that youthful exuberance or that can-do attitude. You may have a can-do attitude, but maybe not as much as when you were younger, just because you old. Anyway, that is besides the point. Apologies if I offended anyone there. So that's believing, okay, you can't amass wealth, but you take the slow lane. You don't do the things, you do the things that kind of just keep you going, and you turn up to your job, spend 5 days working, looking forward to 2 days of a weekend, and then you just rinse and repeat for the next 40 years of your career. The author, MJ DeMarco, presents a third lane, which is the fast lane. And in that fast lane, you first of all believe. So the soundtrack or the thought you have in your mind is, I can do this. Believe that, okay, you can actually amass wealth at an earlier age and attain financial freedom at an earlier age, and be able to then leverage that financial freedom to do other things you want to do. But he doesn't just stop at believing. In fact, that's not really much of the book. It's more about what are the strategies you can do, or what are the things you can leverage to help you get to that point of being able to have financial freedom. He mentions that you can leverage technology, for example. You can work on a business. A lot of people on the fast lane get there by working on business or by having exceptional talent. So if we're putting aside exceptional talent for now, and you're talking about your average Joe or anybody, well, actually, you're not average if you're thinking like this already, but you're talking about the next person, right? And in this, you're thinking of setting up a system that has a high level of passivity, which means it can run itself to a large extent without you necessarily having to trade your time for money. Not that you can trade your time for money initially when you're trying to raise capital and all those things, but then know that you're looking to move towards having systems that you can set up that can kind of run on their own, and even can be running without you necessarily trading your time for money. One thing he mentioned in the book, which stuck out to me, he said, a lot of pensioners, a lot of them earned their income through one event that happened at the culmination of a few years of hard and focused work on something. So they're putting in the time for a season, and putting in the effort, but in a way that was I was taking advantage of systems and building things such that they got to a point where, for example, they might have created a company, gotten it to a certain point, and then sold it off, such that they were able to then realize that value in the things they were creating over those years. The book, I have to say, it really got me thinking. I mean, the part about slow lane, the sidewalk, slow lane, that was for a lot of the first part of the book, and I thought, okay, I get it. Just take me to the point where I can start learning what to do to actually earn or start working towards getting that wealth. So he did definitely mention business. So it might be meeting a need. The more you meet a need and you can create value in society, the more people are willing to pay you for it. So find a need you can meet. But then beyond just finding a need you can meet, you want to find a need that either has a high volume or a high value. So, for example, somebody might buy a block of apartments, renovate them, and maybe there are only 12 apartments in there, but each one costs maybe 100,000 each. The person renovates them and maybe can sell them for 200,000 each, or even if it's 150 each. So that's a profit of 50,000 for each unit sold. And with that person is able to make. So if you've got 50 and you've got, let's say there are 10 for simplicity. So 50,000 times 10, that's 500,000. That's $500,000 already. Do that twice, you're a millionaire. There's that, and then there's solving a problem that affects many people, millions of people. Now, for example, it might be, taxi service or car hire service from the most busy airport in the world or in your region. It could be different things. But in that case, you have a lot of people, so you've got a high volume, and there's whatever the cost is, and then when you multiply that, you can get something from it. So he mentions a few roads to wealth. There are rental systems, so those are like your real estate, people paying you to live in your apartment, to rent your apartment. You've got car rentals, leases, royalty payments, licensing, product patenting, cartoonists as well. If they've drawn cartoons, they can, if they have the rights to those cartoons, if they maintain the rights, it means that anytime those cartoons are used, they get paid a share. Then you have computer software systems. So that's like you create maybe a website that serves a particular need in the market. Then you have content systems, distribution systems, and human resource systems. Now, a word about human resource systems is that they often lean less towards passivity. So it means that you're going to have to hire a manager to manage those people, and then hire somebody to manage the managers, and it can get quite time intensive when you're having to do a lot of people management. So the author's preference was to actually go for businesses that have more passivity, so I guess less human input required in them, so maybe like online businesses, that sort of thing. He talks about the law of affection. So basically, in summary, the law of affection is if you affect millions, you make millions. Simple as that. A simple thing he also mentions is focusing on somewhere. So the chapter title was Monogamy is Better Than Polygamy. And he wasn't talking necessarily about marriage, but it applies to marriage. But he was referring more to business, like choosing a business to focus on. When you're a lot bigger and you've made your millions, you can then diversify and go into different things. But when you're starting off, it really helps to have one thing to focus on. For example, imagine you had, 5 businesses that each had 20,000, so that each made 20,000 a year, versus one business that made 100,000 a year. Now, that one business with 100,000 has more leverage in terms of getting loans, in terms of supplier relationships and contracts. There's more leverage with that one than having many small businesses. There are many advantages to that one. One thing I did take from the book, though, is looking at what business can I get into that I can focus on, build on, but also will allow me to have passive income in the future. Something that because sometimes you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I in this for? Do I want financial freedom and freedom of time such that I'm able to do other things with my time as opposed to working all the time? Because you don't want to trade a job for a business disguised as a job, or a job disguised as a business. You want to make sure that it suits what it is that you are looking to get out of life. And sometimes it might mean saying no to some things. For the author, for example, he had the option of scaling his business or keeping it as it is. And he actually opted not to scale the business, because scaling the business would have meant needing to hire more employees, and then needing a manager to manage those employees and somebody to manage the manager. It's going to take too much from him in terms of time and effort. And for him, that wasn't what he wanted at that point in time. So you also have to decide what it is that you want for yourself. Now, I'm not sure I've done enough justice to this book. I think at the end of it, I'm going to come back and write my notes. But I thought I'd just record a video just to get some thoughts out there.